All right, good morning. For the record, I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC Sign Advisory Committee. Let's confirm access. Members, please respond with an aye when I call your name. We've got Kevin Kuster.
Aye.
Mark Catone.
Aye.
Paul Wolf.
Aye.
And for staff, we have Nikki Sheriff.
Here.
And we have Billy Sad.
Here.
Great. This open meeting of the HDC's SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order, posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording available on the town's YouTube channel. We will feature public comment and materials provided to the members for the meeting and during the meeting, unless otherwise noted, are available on the town's website. During the meeting, I'll introduce agenda topics and speakers. Please remember to mute Zoom audio until your name's called, and let's direct comments and questions through the chair to avoid crosstalk and the taking of minutes easier. Votes will be conducted by roll call. So with that said, let's call the meeting to order at 9:02 on April 30th, 2024. Before we move to approve the agenda, we do need to make one note, which is that item number 4 was a duplicate. So if we could get a motion to approve the agenda with item 4 removed, that would be best. Thank you. All right. And Mark, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
And Kevin?
Aye.
Okay, thank you guys. We are open to public comment. If anybody's on the line that would like to comment on something other than an application that is on our agenda. Is there anybody here for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to commissioners' comments. We're welcoming Nikki today, who is joining us for the first time as a staff member. She'll be taking over the role of our liaison with the Plus staff. So welcome, Nikki. Thanks for being here. And are there any other commissioner comments that would like to be made at this time?
Yeah.
Okay, seeing that. Oh, Kevin.
I'm just curious as to where we're at with enforcement and with Director Snell joining us.
So I can go ahead and answer
Billy.
that if you want, Chris.
Thank you, Billy.
Nikki is now the appointed enforcement officer for the HDC, so it only makes sense for her to kind of take this role on. It was somewhat the position I was put into when I joined, so it kind of runs hand in hand. I know I had talked to Leslie about this because at the last meeting it came up that a meeting was requested, and that was the first time I had heard of that. So Leslie told me she had a conversation with you, Chris. I don't know where that stands. I
can. Thank you. So basically, the conversation was that, you know, due to the staffing issues, enforcement obviously, and getting messages back and forth to her level had been kind of set to the side just for triaging of workload. But Nikki was going to be sort of the solution to that, having Nikki step into the role and then be joining us. So we're looking forward to that. At some point, it would be nice if we could have a joint meeting with Leslie, I think, just so that we kind of consolidate the whole game plan, but and that we could understand what's happening. But Nikki being here, I think, is the first step towards Leslie's solution.
So then I take that we should be sending in violations to Nikki.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that has notices that, it would be a good thing to let her know. And Nikki, your email is attached to the agenda that went out. Is that right? Let me just check that. Or Billy, do you know that offhand?
Let's check.
I don't believe it was, but I mean, I can easily.
Okay.
Was it?
It was. Okay,
Great.
perfect.
Great.
I can also email the board with, and copy Nikki on there. So everyone, I believe she's been copied on the emails I've emailed to the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you.
And just another side note, I mean, she's taking over HDC inspections. It all runs hand in hand, I mean, it's the exact thing I was doing when I first came on in 2022.
Great. Thank you.
All right, any other commissioner comments? And seeing none, we'll move on to new business.
Ben has joined us.
Oh, Ben Normand, are you present?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, welcome to the meeting. First order of business is 1 Sparks Avenue wall sign. Is there a representative on the call for this?
Yes, Donadel Dariush from 1 Sparks Avenue LLC here.
How are you?
Well, how are you? Thanks for having us.
Great. Well, introduce us to your application here.
So we're hoping to have a wall sign on the south side of the building, the old Lola Burger. It's going to be facing towards the Sparks Avenue sign above what was previously one of the takeout entrances. That area is going to be kitchen prep space for us this year due to our remodel permits that we had with the building departments. And we're hoping to have a sign above the door mounted to the shingles with a gooseneck 10-watt bulb. The lighting specs are also attached. The 10-watt bulb applies to the modified lighting changes, I believe, from the HTC. And we're hoping to have that sign there just because of how much traffic that goes to the rotary, as we all know. We're hoping to, in addition to our existing approved hanging sign, have this right there, right above those 2 windows, exactly.
Okay, let me open this up to, now actually, Billy, can you give us the approved hanging sign? Was that at the last meeting? Went through HDC? Are you?
So they had the hanging sign is technically a freestanding sign. There was an existing post in front of that structure at 1 Sparks. Now, the
Okay.
sign council did not recommend approval for it, but the applicant went to the HDC, and in the meantime, they went back and checked the file, and Lola Burger did have an approved freestanding sign in that exact location. I think the year was 2013. So the HDC full board thought it was acceptable for another business to utilize the same post.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so this is a second sign, where it's showing here, you mentioned above the door. Is this where it's proposed, or is it proposed
Correct.
above the door?
Right, yeah, right between those 2 windows. Exactly. That's correct.
Okay. Let me open it up to the commissioners. We'll go Ben, Kevin, Mark, Paul. So Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I think the location doesn't really read as a sign to an entrance. It looks more like a billboard.
Okay. Any other comment?
I'd recommend having it moved more towards a pedestrian entrance to the building.
Okay. Kevin?
I agree with Ben. I also would just add that it's really not by an entrance. The freestanding sign covers a lot. You've also got that large tree that you can see already is, shadowing the proposal without any leaves on. I also noticed that there's a fence that's gone up around the entire outside. If a sign is indeed necessary, there could be a fence sign put on there. I really don't think having a sign on this, like this is appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Mark?
I don't know. Actually, I kind of see it as almost a corner condition. It does have exposure on the side. We've allowed for signs on corners of the building. Scissor hand comes to mind, I think, as an example of such. I don't really have an issue with the application.
Okay. Paul?
I agree that it's not a great location. Maybe it could be just, the door there is not an entrance, as I understand it. It's a way in the back door to go to the kitchen. Could be dropped down possibly a little bit. I also have another issue, and that is they've got a string of lights all over the front yard of the facility. And they've been on, they've been up and they've been on. I don't think we ever discussed those, but I don't think they're appropriate.
Okay. The lights, that does get into that discussion we've had with other locations. I don't think we should hold this application up for that issue, just because it would be, that could take a while. So, but that could be brought up as a concern separately to the board. What I agree with Mark when it comes to precedent. I think of Vineyard Vines and I think of Scissorhands, where we've allowed corner conditions like this to have signs that aren't necessarily at the public entrance. So I think that there is precedent there for this. I also agree that where it's located, I'm afraid, is going to get blocked by these trees as soon as the leaves grow in. So
We've
from
had
the
that
applicant's
tree
point-
trimmed, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
So what is the board's pleasure? Does anybody want to make a motion and we can send a recommendation up to the HDC?
Can I, Chris, through you?
Yeah.
I'm inclined to make a recommendation based on precedent for approval or recommendation for approval. But I do want to maybe just ask the applicant. I know that I know the property is, and the way it's being used this season will be a little different than previous. And they had the food cart set up, or the food truck or what trailer, what have you, last season. I'm guessing that will not be the case this year, given they'll have food service out of the building. I just want to make sure there's no additional signage such as sandwich boards and things of the like that we did see with that trailer in previous seasons. Again, this year, that the only signage will be as we're seeing proposed here and on the freestanding armature. Can that question be addressed before making a motion?
Absolutely, Mark, that's correct. We're hoping to have this sign that we're talking about now, and then the freestanding sign to be our only two signs on the exterior of the building. The sandwich boards and the trailer are not going to be present.
Great. So I'm inclined to make a motion for approval as applied based on precedent for other signage and similar applications that we have approved in the past. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. Kevin, are you in favor?
I am not, and I just like to add, I am not because I am unaware of any precedent that would be a combination with a freestanding sign. Thank you.
Okay. Ben?
No, I'm not in favor.
Okay. Mark
Yes, I'm in favor.
and Paul?
Yes.
Oh boy, so it puts me in the hot seat here, huh? I think this applicant obviously has experience going up to the full board. So Billy, what I'd like to do, I'm going to vote in favor. Actually, I think that there is precedent here. I don't know that we can separate the fact that it's a combination situation. The others are combinations with other wall signs, but I would ask Billy that you not put this on consent, just have it be something that the board has a chance to review and say that it was not a unanimous decision by our board, that we'd like their consideration of this to be thoughtful and not just a consent vote. Is that all right to do?
Well, technically the motion was to approve the motion was to recommend approval.
Right.
that motion carried 3-2. You know, in the past, we never get into, you know, I could put 3-2 or something like that. You know, in terms of the way the HDC operates, and what I've started doing is after this meeting, I go in and I adjust the actual HDC agenda to reflect you guys' motions. So
Okay.
the reason behind that too is, especially with 17 items, it makes for an easy motion for the full board to make, you know, whether it's whatever way I write out the recommendation. So
Okay.
a little torn on that, you know, I mean, it's just
All right.
not something we've ever done.
Yeah, Chris,
Yes,
that makes
Mark.
sense what Billy said, and I think we know that the commissioners had the opportunity to review the view pack just as we have prior. So I think if they have question, they have in the past pulled the application before making a sweeping approval. If there's been questions, so they can pull it for discussion.
Fair
So-
enough. No, it voted 3-2, so I understand. I just wanted to pay some credit, put 3-2 in the file so that it's at least noted that there was some concern by fellow board members.
And I can certainly do that. I can put the number, you know, the vote tally 3-2, 4-1, whatever it may be, with my recommendation on the updated agenda.
All right. Thanks for that. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda,
Thank you.
which is, thanks, 4 Harbor Squares wall signs. We have 2. Is there anybody on the call for their application?
Jonathan Kirby from Workshop APD, representing our client Straight Wharf Fish, as well as the building owner NIR Retail. So we presented a couple weeks ago in front of the board. We have 2 signs, one at each public entry for our building. The first one is on the wharf side. We were previously heard. The recommendations from the board for revisions were to eliminate the gable facing sign or wharf facing sign, as there are no precedent image or signs on the wharf. Since then, we walked the wharfs and the wharf facing structures and documented existing signage. I can, if you don't mind, if I can share my screen.
Yes, and Jonathan, I actually should have started out. I believe I should recuse myself. I'm sorry to the board for that, but I've been involved in this project. So, Kevin, let me hand over the reins to you on this one.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, we walked along the wharfs, taking photographs of existing signage for other establishments that have the name of the establishment, which is essentially exactly what we are submitting in our application. So this exists at Bar Yoshi, it exists at Pete's Fresh Fish Prints. It also exists at the Yacht Club, as well as several other structures on the other wharfs. Going back to our signage, as I mentioned, this is a public entry for the restaurant. We do have 2 public entries. One is off of the square, which will be referenced in the other application, and that provides access to the fish market area where people can walk in, order fresh fish, or they could also order food to sit down. Then, as I mentioned, we have a public access here along the bulkhead to the dining area as well. The sign colors haven't changed. We still have a white background on the sign with a navy coloring, as well as a stripe going around the side, which I believe was also one of the comments from the board when we were last heard.
Is that it?
I'll open up for questions from the board.
Well, what we do is go around and make our comments. Ben.
Yeah, my opinion hasn't changed about this application. I still feel like it's being presented as a billboard to the harbor. I think there are creative ways to make this sign more in line with our guidelines. So I'm unfortunately not in favor.
Paul.
Yes, I'm not in favor of the quote billboard for the harbor. All those other signs that we just looked at were not facing the harbor. They were facing the docks where people walk. So I'm not in favor of this particular sign.
Mark,
Gosh, I'm gonna be the liberal, I guess, today. I don't know, for as long as I can remember, yeah, there's that sign, right? I just pulled it up on my phone. I mean, that building was at Lobsters. Had been on that gable face. It was kind of iconic in a way. That was just kind of classic seaside signage, and kind of appreciated it. And I thought it was sort of a loss when it disappeared. I don't know if there was any discussion about whether that original sign would have been retained or I think that, and maybe that's beside the point because it's not before us at the moment, but just an observation. With that in mind, I guess I never took offense to that lobster sign. And I don't know that I take offense to another sign in its place. I actually find this is where I'm going to probably stray from the board as well, but I find the application for the sign on this gable face, the design of the sign looks a little small. I actually think the lobster sign was actually more appropriately scaled to the gable. And so I am in favor. I do think you approach this building from the water. There is an entrance on that face. I can support the application. I would actually make a recommendation that they can consider. I think I read yesterday that it was 12 inches in height, 9 feet in length. I actually think it could be a little taller and maybe proportioned. I don't think I'll get support from the others on that, but I do think it looks a little puny viewed from the water, and I actually think it could be slightly scaled up, more closer to where the old lobster sign was. I don't have a problem with the other signage by the entrance either. So my concerns, it might be that one, would the applicant ever consider putting the historic lobster sign back up? Two, if they are going to stick with the signage as proposed in the gable face, they might consider scaling it up some. We have done that on occasion. I remember we did that with Henry Sandwich Shop on Orange Street, where the application was actually the sign appeared too small on the facade and it was actually scaled up. So we have done that in the past. Thank you.
okay. Yes, Mark, we did have some conversation about the lobster sign previously, and that has gone away.
Okay.
And we've been told that they don't sell lobsters there, so that they
Yeah.
don't want a lobster sign, but they don't sell lobsters.
Yeah.
We suggested clams or scallops, but that fell on dead ears as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
We also discussed the option of either a blade sign coming out as you walk towards that entrance from the inside, similar to what Stars used to have. And we also discussed the option of hanging that sign below the eave. The comment that concerns me most, Mark, that you made is that if we were to allow this because of that historic thing, which we really haven't done with others that I can remember, I'm just very concerned that each one of these buildings would now be in line to have the name of their business up big on their buildings. And I think that would be inappropriate and would be a shame for the approach into the harbor. So I'm not in favor of this either.
Kevin, if I could, can I comment to that directly?
Sure.
Through you. I feel like if that is a concern, and maybe it's a valid one, that I do feel that we can fall back that we have permitted a gable facing sign because there had been a gable facing sign there for, I mean, as long as I can remember. I mean, going back, you can go back, I think into the 90s, that lobster sign had been there, maybe longer. And it's simply, replacing one that had been there previously. And therefore, that would be the reason why we would have permitted a gable facing sign in this application. versus, you know, the Straight Wharf Restaurant now wanting a sign on that gable face, as you would see to the left in this image. I think we could argue that that wouldn't be appropriate. But because of historic precedent with this particular address, we could be comfortable in supporting that. I just throw that out there. That might be the only reason. I think if the sign had never existed on the gable face, that might be a stronger argument as to why we wouldn't permit it. But in this case, there was one there for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had a citizen or an individual ever complain about that or found it cluttering the harborscape. But I do feel because the sign existed, it does give you the opportunity to support a new sign and its replacement.
Certainly,
If
I
I can
understand.
add a comment, Chair.
Not right now, please. I'll get back to you. We also discussed that previously, excuse me, and you may recall that we had the Dreamland come in and want to replace sign on the harbor side of the Dreamland, and they certainly had historic signs, and I believe the board saw that as an opportunity to clean that all up and not have that kind of obfuscation go as people approach from the harbor.
I agree, Kevin. Just to continue that thought, I think in that case, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but also that sign, I think, had been removed for maybe as many as 70 years. Whereas I feel like the lobster sign has only been removed once the tenant changed here. I feel like we're only talking a number of months here in terms of the period of the renovation, in terms of when the sign was removed, and it's being proposed as something new. So I completely agree with you on the point of the Dreamland, and I still support our decision in that case. In this one, it's a little harder because I feel like the lobster sign was, recently there with the last tenant.
That's accurate. However, the lobster sign did not advertise a business. So anyway, there was the comment from the applicant.
Yes, I would just like to address the idea that we did discuss moving the sign down below the gable. And I believe during our discussion last time, we did note that this awning structure needed to be added as a result of agreements with the neighbors. And so that wasn't a possibility. And that's why we did not pursue that as a viable option. Just want to note that we did hear the board's request, but due to that existing condition, we're not able to go that route.
Okay, thank you. We have had awning signs in the past where there's been an awning edge that's held signage, so that certainly could be an option. Anyway, pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to hold for revisions.
If I can request a recommendation be sent to the board or the HTC.
You can make that request after we've made the vote.
Thank you.
Do we have a second? Hearing none, that motion dies.
I would make a motion for approval.
Do we have a second? That
If
motion
I
dies.
second, do I have to vote in favor?
No.
All right, then I'll second.
Okay.
All those in favor of Mark's motion to approve? Paul,
No,
Ben,
No.
Mark,
Aye.
and I'm not in favor either. Do we have another motion?
But isn't that it though? I mean, that's a motion to,
Right.
isn't that, don't they get the inverse of that at that point?
You're right. Yep. So this is denied, and the way it sounds, the applicant.
Well, it's not denied, it's just that we haven't supported it at the HDC,
You've taken no action.
right, right.
Well, yeah, we don't, yeah, it's just,
Well,
That's-
can we do this? Can we make a recommendation that the applicant present before the full board?
I think we just had that discussion with the previous applicant that they have the ability to take this there, or we had
Yeah.
that conversation with Billy. They have the ability to take that there. I think this is one that the full board should look at because it has an impact on a number of, areas. So
Yeah, there's a lot of precedent here.
You could make the recommendation to have the full board review. Now, would any of you be available to join the HDC meeting at 4 p.m. this afternoon?
That kind of is different than the protocol that you just outlined, Billy, because
Well, it's not. I mean, you could approve it, you could deny it, you could hold for revisions. You guys are making a recommendation. You could make a recommendation that the sign be placed on the awning, and then the HDC can discuss that portion even, I mean, you're here to provide your recommendation.
okay. Well then, I'm prepared to make a motion unless anybody else has one. I would make a motion to have this sign on this side. It's basically to hold for revisions, but I would have it to be applied to the awning and not as a large sign facing the harbor. Am I going to get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, Mark?
Hey, hang on, you have to rescind the previous motion with the approval, and then we'll make this new motion. So just, do you mind
Well,
just rescinding the approval that was denied based or not approved? Just to
Well,
not confuse things here.
Well, we had a tie vote, so it
That's
died.
true. The motion died without being approved, so I
Sure.
think we can move ahead with this.
Yeah, there's really nothing to rescind. So we're on to the motion of holding for revisions to approve or having the name of the business appear on the edge of the awning and not on the building. And that was seconded by Ben. Mark, where are you on that?
I'm not in support of that.
Paul,
Aye.
Ben,
No,
that was a what?
no, I don't vote in favor of that. I don't like it on the awning. I still think it's a sign into the harbor that's not necessary.
Okay. And I would be in favor, so that one also goes nowhere. My alternative motion is I'll make a motion to deny, and the applicant has the ability to take this to the full board if he would like. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Aye,
All those in favor, Ben,
aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Mark?
No, but you have enough support. That's going to go forward now. I don't necessarily support the denial.
Depends
I
how
do
I
think
vote.
the applicant should go forward before the board and have the discussion.
Okay. I'm an aye, so yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, is there anybody who's available to jump on the full board tonight?
I
Ben?
can be there.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ben.
Kevin, you'll have to take the next application as well for the straight wharf sign at the patio side or the gazebo side.
Certainly. If we could pull it up, I think everybody's had a chance to look at this one, and I don't. There we go.
All right. Similar to the last sign we presented previously, the sign was a little bit more square in proportions. The direction from the board was they would prefer to see a sign more rectangular, similar to the previous sign that was in that location. So we've made that modification. Previous discussion also was looking at placing the sign below the upper story bump out on the back wall. As discussed during our last meeting, we are making modifications to the head casing at the door so that it aligns with the casing around the bay windows on either side. Again, if you don't mind, if I can share my screen, I'll show you what that looks like. So here you can see what that proposed modification to the head casing above the door will look like. And reading through the sign book, one of the requirements for placement is that signs don't obstruct architectural elements, including building trim. So we forewent placing that sign on this location above the door, and instead are retaining that sign in the location that it was historically placed. And here you can see the location of that sign and proportions as well.
Okay. Maybe you can just, for a little bit of clarity, I don't see any trim on that head casing.
It's this taller trim casing on the door so that it aligns with the casing at the bay windows.
And
So if we were to,
and
so
about,
if we,
sorry, what would the dimension of that be? It looks like it's a relatively large piece of trim.
sure, the trim is actually, let me go back to this. It is about 3 courses of shingles, 2.5. So it's about 12 inches, which again, the original head casing on that door was approximately the same size.
Okay. Comments from the board? Ben?
I'm good with this one.
Paul?
I think it's fine, move approval.
Okay, all those in favor of Paul's motion for approval? Paul?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Mark?
Mark disappeared.
You there, Mark? Oh, we don't have Mark. I'm not in favor. I think it could either be hanging or it could be above, or it could be on that door casing, but it carries 2-1, so it's approved.
Thank you.
Hang on, Mr. Chair. We can't, 2-1 would not be a carrying vote. Mark is back. We should.
Sorry, yeah, I'd step out for a sec.
Where we were at is Paul made a motion to approve.
Yep.
Ben and Paul were in favor. I was not, because I believe that the sign could either hang from that extended bump out or it could go onto that head casing. I don't think it needs to be attached that far up on the building. So I was a no.
Can I cast a vote?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the application. I think there's actually quite a bit of wall plane below those windows that comfortably accommodates a sign. I actually think if the sign were somewhere else, it actually would look a little awkward. So
Okay.
I am in favor of the application.
Okay. That passes 3-1.
Question.
Yeah.
What about the lights that showed on the prior sign that was there and there's none shown here?
Let's look at the application and see what they have for lighting. None.
None. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
So let's move on to 30 North Beach Street, where there are 3 signs. Am I right? These 3 signs are essentially the same, just in 3 different locations on the portico.
Yes.
I get. Okay. And is there anybody on the call for this application? Okay.
I don't see, I have had so much back and forth with this applicant, Mr. Chair, and I'm shocked they're not on here. I'm fine moving forward with it if you guys are. I can explain I mean, they're replacing existing signs.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we don't need to have a representative here. Let's go around. For sake of efficiency, we'll have 3 different votes because there's 3 applications, but they're all 3 the same, essentially, just on each side of the driveway portico. So we'll have sort of a uniform discussion unless anybody wants to pull one out.
Chris, I have a question.
Yes.
Quick. Maybe it might help if we have is there any pertinent background with your discussions, Billy, that we should know about?
Other than they submitted 1 sign application to encompass everything on the address, not really.
Okay.
I believe there is a picture within this packet that shows the previous signs that were located. I can't remember the Cliffside. I can't see
Yeah.
that, it's too small. But they're essentially looking to replace wherever it said Cliffside with their new hotel name.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Why don't we go Mark, Paul, Ben, Kevin, just to review the designs and any comments. Mark?
Yeah, I think given these are simply replacing existing signage, I don't think I have any concerns with this application.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, my guess is that this existing signage was never approved, probably precedes our involvement. And I don't know why there need to be 3 signs on this portico. I'm not going to vote against it, but I don't care for it too much. We've got 3 signs on the front of the building. And that also, just to keep it all together, they're also looking for a flag sign. So I think there's too much signage.
Okay. Well, let's address we're gonna have 3 different votes on the wall signs, and then a 4th one, and we'll have a discussion on the flag sign separately. I'm just trying to keep the wall signs together for sake of the fact that they're the same design, but so noted. Ben?
I have no concerns.
Okay, and Kevin?
A question first. I just want to make sure that we're all good with materials, and is this carved painted? That went by a little quick for me. I didn't.
It's called out, it's wood, beveled edges, carved.
Okay.
There
Okay.
is no border
Vicky,
per
can you go
se.
back and zoom in on the specifications for Kevin? Because I believe it calls out right there, right there. Specifications up in the top right corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
White lettering
Okay.
and edging.
And the edging is just a beveled edge, the way I take it.
That's what the application says.
Okay.
It's not what they're showing here necessarily, but that's what's written on the application.
I think you could condition it with a beveled edge if that's what you wanted to see.
I'm just not sure how that edge is being defined. It says it's white lettering and edging, but I don't see it on I don't see any white edging on the sign. So I just don't know what it is. And the profile doesn't look like it has a bevel. I might make a suggestion, Chris, that we talk about these as a whole or hold for representation, mainly because I too tend to think there's too many signs on this building, and they're proposing to add a flag sign. So that would be my suggestion, is that we just hold for representation and tackle it all at once. Otherwise,
Okay. Before a motion's made, that's certainly a motion that can be made. I just want to put my comment in. My only concern with the design was the edging. We always ask for some sort of a pronounced edge. The description says white border, but we don't see any indication of that in the design. So if we're going to hold for a representation, I'd also like just to note that we want clarity on that. So if you'd like to make a motion, go ahead. And this motion will be for let's just do each one. So we have a motion on each. So the first wall sign, would you like to make a motion?
Move approval.
Second. Well, all right, so sorry, I went a little quickly on that. I support Paul's motion, but would ask maybe Paul could add that a white border be added to the application through either a frame or a beveled edge. We just need some clarity on that.
So I
Looks like the intent is there, but it's not clear.
Okay, so I would move it, add that to
To the motion.
the motion.
Okay.
I would
So we have
second that motion.
we have a motion for approval with a clear white beveled edge that we want to have a definition of in plan view. And that's been seconded. Ben, are you in favor of that?
Aye.
Kevin, are you in favor of that?
well, I've got a bit of a question. This seems a little unusual in that we usually talk about a building as a whole, and now we are going side by side without any discussion of the whole. As an example, I would be in approval of this motion if I knew that the other two signs on the other side were going to be removed. But
Okay.
absent having that discussion, I have a hard time voting for it.
Well, couldn't you support this one, Kevin? And then
Or-
you would not support the other two because there'll be separate independent votes for each of those signs, correct?
Yes, and we just haven't had the conversation. So
Well, we're voting at the moment. We have a motion. We're voting on sign one,
okay,
which is the street facing sign.
I'm in favor of that one. Thank you. Sorry for that.
So no, that's fine. So we have sign one approved. Sign two is the one that faces towards Jetty's Beach. Is there a motion for sign two?
Motion to deny due to duplication of other signs. Too many signs.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to deny because of too many
Second,
signs on the property. We have seconded. Ben, are you in favor of that?
No.
Mark, are you in favor of that?
No.
Okay. Kevin, are you in favor of that?
Yes.
And Paul?
yes.
I'm in favor of that as well. I believe that we should be limiting the sign counts here. So that motion carries. We have sign number 3, which is facing towards town. Do we have a motion for that sign?
Motion to deny.
Second,
Okay,
Too many.
Mark? Mark, are
Not
you
in favor of that motion.
And Ben,
No,
and Paul,
Yes,
and Kevin.
Yes,
I'm not in favor of that either. I think that I'd like to see, I'm not in favor of that. So that motion does not carry. I'd like to see a motion, I'll make a motion myself to hold for revisions.
for what?
So that we can have this conversation with the applicant about their entire building, to be quite honest with you. But revisions meaning, maybe it could be a location. I think that we're, to your point.
That's where I started, Chris.
I understand. I'm just trying to follow procedure. So
So
procedurally, this will get us there.
yeah. So do we want to include the flag sign in this discussion as an example? I think a flag sign and the approval of the sign on the front facade would be acceptable to me. But I'm not sure where
I
you
agree.
want to go.
Yeah, that would be a perfect conversation. I think that we ought to be, I don't want to influence the flag sign discussion, but I think we should have the same motion with the flag sign if we want to get the applicant before us to have a discussion about their options. So
Okay. Help
I
me
have a
out.
motion to hold for revisions on the street, the town facing portico sign.
second.
Okay, Ben, are you in favor of that?
Point of order,
Nikki?
Chair, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Nikki, thank you. Thank you, Nikki.
Gary just hopped on. I'm not sure if this is the representative. Billy, could you confirm? I think he was trying to get on. The Zoom wasn't.
Gary, you're unmuted. Can you confirm that you're Gary McCoy, Poyant
Yeah,
Signs?
yeah, sorry. Sorry for getting in late. I knew the meeting was changed today, but I didn't realize the time changed.
Okay, Gary, let's see, this is an interesting situation then. We're in the middle of a motion to hold for revisions. I will say if that motion fails, then we can maybe open up discussion. So where were we with a vote? Had we cast any votes yet, Billy?
I am fairly confused with how this is
Yeah.
gone.
Yes.
So I think
I'm
you
gonna-
can, I think you can rescind any motion.
I'm gonna rescind the motion.
I mean, the applicant's on. I think you guys should have this discussion with the applicant.
I agree. Yeah. So let's rescind the motion, open the discussion. Gary, welcome
I
to the
think,
meeting.
Chris,
Yes.
I think in order to do that, wouldn't we need to rescind the other motions that we've also?
Yes,
Uh,
not to confuse things totally. How about we rescind all motions for 30 North Beach and let's go back to the front. Let's look at the street facing portico. Let's address those three signs and move on to the flag.
That's my
Okay,
motion.
thank you. All right. Apologies to everybody else on the line. Please wait for your turn and we're going to restart the discussion on 30 North Beach.
Okay,
Gary,
let's take a
Yes.
vote on rescinding all the motions.
do we have a motion to rescind all the motions?
So moved.
second,
All right. Mark, you in favor?
Aye.
And Ben
aye,
and Kevin
Aye.
and Mark,
Aye.
and I am as well. All right. Gary, welcome to the meeting.
Good morning.
Why don't you introduce us to your application? We're pretty familiar with it. We've had some conversation. I'll give you a recap of what you missed, which is simply that there's a concern from the board that there are too many signs. The guidelines allow for 2 signs per business. We understand that there's precedent. We're not sure that the precedent was ever properly applied for in the first place, but that is not on our end to prove or disprove. But the guidelines do clearly say that signage should be limited to 2 per business. So that's the board's concern that's been discussed. I'll give you the floor to introduce us to what you're after.
Chris, one
Yeah.
Yes.
point, if we could, as part of the conversation from the get-go, I'd like to include the flag as well. Are you okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, if I may, I almost feel like this should be almost like a master sign plan, given the scale of the structure. We've certainly done that in the past. I can't remember, like, has there always been an independent application per sign? And I'm thinking back to like the hospital or some of the other larger complexes.
There have, we've had campus applications. So there's master sign
Yeah.
plans when there's multiple tenants,
Yeah.
and then master campus sign plans when there's, like the hospital.
Yeah.
And then there's an independent sign application for each.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not trying to muddy up the waters. I just thought in this case, it might have been easier just to have one sort of campus plan that would have identified all signage. I suspect there's probably some additional signage that we're unaware of, maybe on this building somewhere and whatever. But anyway, I'm glad we have the representative here to speak to the application.
Okay, Gary, we'll give you the floor to talk us through what you're presenting.
Okay, thank you. So these are the only exterior signs on the entire project. So just to touch on the last statement that was just made. Yeah, so you've got 3 existing signs on that portico currently, and we really just wanted to replace them in kind, same size, same methodology, same material. Not realizing that there was a limit of one sign, so making the myself and the ownership making the assumption that replacing like for like would not be a problem or a big issue. So again, yeah, there'd be identical signs on that portico chair. The flag is just nothing special about the flag. It's got the logo on it. There's an existing flagpole out front. And I was told that did need a separate application as well. So that's really it. It's not that complicated. There's not a whole hell of a lot to say about it.
Okay. Well, our job is to just define how an application or a set of applications would comply with the guidelines. The sign book would tell us that each business location is allowed 2 signs. The discussion of precedent is something that can be brought up. I think that the flag sign would constitute a 4th. It does constitute a 4th sign application. So we'll talk about this as a whole. I think everybody's kind of got that intent here. So so that you can be a part of the conversation, I'm just going to go around the horn one more time. Kevin, Mark, Paul, Ben, let each of you guys weigh in on this. So Kevin first.
I would, in trying to get, as it stands, the application has got 4 signs proposed, including the flag. I think either 2, I'd be okay with either 2 signs on each end of that portico, and eliminating the one in the middle, or having the one in the middle and not the ones on the other 2 sides. I don't think all 3 sides of that need to be covered. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay. Where are we going next to? Mark?
Yeah. I think given there have been signs there previously, there was never a complaint filed. I don't know that anybody has pulled the original folder or file to see if indeed those were approved. I think we speculated as to whether they were or not. That said, I don't know that I ever had a concern with those. You can really only observe 2 at a time. You can't see all 3 at once. And they are not large signs. The building sits a little bit back off the road. I would support, I think it's an either or. For me, it's an either or situation. You can get I would support all 3 signs, but probably not a flag. Or if they wanted to scale back the number of signs in the portico because it felt strongly about the flag, I think that's maybe a viable option too, but maybe they would just add signage. Well, they could choose whether they wanted street facing plus a flag sign, or if they maybe wanted 2 signs on the, I don't know if it's east and west sides of the portico and maybe a flag sign, some combination thereof. But probably have a hard time supporting what would constitute 4 signs. So sort of where I stand at the moment.
Okay, Paul?
Thanks. I don't like the 3 signs on the building. That doesn't meet the guidelines. And I'm a little concerned about the flag sign. It's my recollection that that's pretty much in a residential neighborhood. I can't say that for sure, but I think it looks a little bit out of place where it is. So I would support no flag sign, and I could live with the 3 sides on the portico because, as Mark says, they're small, they're not offensive. Those are my thoughts.
All right, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, I would support the 3 signs to replace the light kind as proposed. But that would then dissuade me from supporting the flag sign. If the flag sign was something they definitely wanted, then I would only be in favor of 1 sign on the building. So it's kind of a fork in the road there for the
Okay, thanks. And that basically is how the guidelines read. So the flag signs are allowed. There is no mention specifically of residential versus commercial neighborhoods, so to speak, but flag signs have to comply with all the size and design recommendations in the guidelines, which this would. And it's allowed, a flag sign is permitted with 1 other sign being a wall sign, window sign, or menu box. So it's approvable as a flag sign with 1 wall sign. So I think all the board members' comments make sense there. Gary, we'll kind of turn this over to you for a moment. You've heard the board discussion. It sounds like there could be a positive vote for potentially the 3 signs sort of under precedent, but the flag sign would not be approved. Or is the flag sign critical and you'd want to rethink having the 3 wall signs? We can let you rescind an application or 2 if you like.
Yeah, so a question. So I don't know how valuable the flag is to begin with. I'm assuming if they didn't do a flag sign, they could still put an American flag on the pole. Is that a problem?
No, absolutely. Yeah, American flags are always welcome.
Okay. So, and then on the building, what is the allowed? So what's the square footage allowance for the building signage?
Well, so we'd ask you to refer to the sign book, but I can tell you wall signs can be 1 square foot per linear foot of elevation that they are placed on. Meaning and that's really 2 wall signs maximum being, and even that is a sort of a variance because you're allowed to have 1 wall sign in combination with a projecting sign or a menu box. To use 2 wall signs together, then if you got to really read into the guidelines. It's not our job to get deep into it here with you, but secondary signs, there's lots of different combination rules. You got to kind of,
No, I get
the guidelines.
I get it. No, I get it. I just wasn't prepared to get on the call this morning, so I don't have my documents with me. So it sounds like if we get rid of the flag, how many votes do I need? Do I need all 4 of you guys?
Well, we're gonna make a motion for a recommendation, so a majority vote would get a motion, would pass any motion that's made, and then it's gonna go to the full HDC tonight, where they'll vote approval or denial of the sign applications. We're here to recommend and tell the HDC how your application complies or doesn't with the guidelines.
Okay,
And what we would recommend that they do about that.
right. So it sounds that if we just forget about the flag, based on what everybody commented, it didn't seem like there was a huge problem with retaining the 3 signs at these small sizes if we were to omit the flag. Is that correct?
I can't determine how the vote's gonna go, but that is, we can make a motion. We could also hold for revisions if you wanted to. Then there would be no action taken this week.
Chris, I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right, go ahead, Kevin. Let's see.
Mr. Chair, can I just,
Bill,
can I get a
yeah.
quick, can we get some clarification on the edge banding or edging of these wall signs?
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Billy. That got lost in here. Gary, the application calls for a white edge band, a white border and a bevel edge, but we don't see that in the design. Can you give us some
Yeah,
indication of how
the
you're...
signs would be made with that. Yeah, we'd have the bevel with the white edge.
Okay. And would you be able to just to submit to staff a revised page, this page that we're looking at here on the screen, just with that shown on the sign design, which is just scrolled off the top of the page that we're seeing here?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So Kevin, you were going to make a motion.
Yes. I'd like to make the motion. I'm making the motion for the project as a whole, not for individual sign applications. Is that?
That's fine. We'll do this as sort of a campus. Yeah.
Okay. The motion would be to approve the 3 like-kind replacement signs and to remove the flag sign from the discussion.
Second.
Okay. Mark, are you in favor with that?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Kevin?
All right.
Okay, I am as well. Billy and Nikki, are you okay with applying that to each of the votes, or each of the applications, or do you want us to vote for?
No, that works as sort of a,
Okay.
I understand the vote for that, and I can clearly display that on the HDC's agenda for 4 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you,
Chris,
Gary. Thank you, Ford. Yes, Kevin.
just a comment through you, I guess, back to Mark. Mark, you've had a couple comments about signs not having received complaints. I kind of question that as a criteria, because we haven't had any enforcement for so many years that even if somebody did complain, we would never know. So just a comment to my liberal friend.
Let's
Okay.
move on to the next item on the agenda, 38 Center Street.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank
Is there anybody on the line for
Okay.
38 Center
Yeah.
Street?
Yep, that's me. Sign here in Nantucket.
Thank you for your patience in getting to this point. Introduce us to your sign application.
All right, so we're looking at replacing this double-sided projecting sign with the sign for the new business, which is STOD. The sign that's going in place of that, and we're also replacing the bracket as well. We're putting it in the same spot. We're just freshening things up because it's a little rusted. It's going to be a double-sided 27 by 27 sign, and it's going to be black and white. We'll get to the drawing, I think, eventually. Yes, here's the drawing. And it will have a small beveled edge border around it, and then the lettering will be raised about 1/4, a little bit less from the material. So that's what we're looking at.
Okay, and the bracket you
And
mentioned?
Yep, we're replacing the bracket. There should be a picture of that in there somewhere. Additionally, there's 2 applications for this location. One is some window vinyl and one is this sign. So I can review them both at the same time, or we can wait and do this one first. Up to you guys.
Let's be aware that there's window signage being applied for. A window sign and projecting sign are allowed in combination. So I think we're not gonna run into any issues with that. So let's just look at each sign on its own here, the projecting sign first, and then we'll talk about window signage. So if we got a rotation, we've gone through, why don't we go Kevin, Mark, Paul, Ben?
The overall design feels far too contemporary for me. I don't think the stark white helps anyway along with the streetscape. You can sort of see how the other signs along here have been somewhat muted in. This is awfully stark. And I guess I would rather see the lettering, engraved or carved into the sign rather than being raised in profile. I think that tends to just look more like a 3-dimensional than a carved version. And I would not be in favor of any kind of vinyl on the windows. If they want to paint that as the guidelines call for, that would be a different conversation. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I generally agree. Surprise, Kevin. I feel like there's too much white space. I think they can think about sign proportions. I think if that had been scaled down, that might help. I think the white is stark against this particular building. In the past, we've asked to lessen the contrast, and a cream might be more appropriate. That would blend in better with the building trim and become less high contrast between the building or the business name and the background. So I'm inclined to, it's not really a motion, but I'm inclined to see some revisions here, maybe a scaled down version of the sign and review background color. Comment, I too have concerns with the vinyl application. I think if they want to propose a paint application, then we would certainly discuss that. Thank you.
Okay, that's for the window signs. We'll do that. We'll review that sign in just a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul?
I agree with Mark. I don't have anything to add. Just for clarification, the area below the big window that has the for rent sign in it, by the way, is a different store. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's the next sign down
That's
the street.
correct.
that you
Okay.
see.
I'll just comment on the big window. That window has constantly been filled up with signs, unapproved signs, and of various shapes and sizes. So that's going to have to stay clear. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Ben.
Nothing to add.
Okay.
May I make a comment?
Yes, you may. Yeah, I would agree with the other board members. Go ahead and make a comment.
I guess the one comment that I am a little bit confused on is it does technically follow the rules with the border in white and black. So that's where I'm having a hard time. I see what you're saying,
Okay.
but in theory, it does follow the rules.
If I may,
Yeah, Mark.
I feel like we have to bear in mind, and this is consistent with the broader guidelines of the HTC. They're guidelines. They're not rules per se. So we have guidelines in place that we do follow, but each application is somewhat unique in that I think that allows the board to sort of weigh in on what we think is most appropriate for each property and location. And therefore, just what appears to be permissible may not always be what is most appropriate to the particular edifice or address.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And just to address that, in the beginning section of the sign book, there's the discussion of section 3, general guidelines, which does sort of broaden the scope of review, talking about, the first sentence says sign design begins with the building. So we've always taken into consideration the color scheme of the building. 3.1 talks about colors, 3.2 talks about content, and under colors, for example, subdued colors, aesthetically pleasing presentation. So there is some latitude there, and as Mark points out, that's really what the HDC's job is, to protect the streetscape and do the best we can. So
motion to hold for revisions.
Second.
Okay. Mark, or excuse me, you seconded. So let's go, Paul.
Are we voting?
We're voting to hold for revisions on the projecting sign only.
So,
Aye.
Okay. So Billy, let me just, before we have this cast the votes, if we hold for revisions, but the applicant wants to go to the board tonight, is that in their purview?
So the applicant always has the option to go to the
Okay.
full HDC board. You guys are in an advisory role, so if they disagree with your recommendation, they can go to the board.
Okay, just wanted to make, I thought that was perhaps the question coming. So we have Paul, your vote on holding for revisions.
Yes.
And Ben?
Aye.
Kevin?
I'm sorry, what was the motion again?
This is a vote on your motion to hold.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay, thanks. And Mark?
Aye.
Okay, I am as well. Let's go to the window signage, which is being proposed for the glass
Sure.
of the two doors.
So just so I'm clear, the revisions on the first sign, what were the issues with this first sign, the double-sided projected sign that we were in disagreement on?
It's basically the white space and the color scheme being starkly contrasting to the building's color scheme. In other words, the background, if it could match the trim of the building, it seemed like that's where, or be more complementary to the trim of the building. That might improve the feel of the white space, but the fact that it's a large white blade with limited lettering was what the board seemed to be concerned about. So either upscaling the font, downscaling the size seems to be a way to eliminate white space.
Okay.
As well as the background.
So,
Okay.
okay. So then they're looking at vinyl lettering on the two front doors here in white. And they're about 2 inches tall by 10 inches long. And it's just that on the doors. And this is a front entrance to the shop.
Okay. Let's go Ben, Paul, Mark, Kevin.
So unfortunately, I need a refresher on the guidelines for these, because I can't recall what we allow.
Yeah, I've got them pulled up. They're window signs, any sign affixed to the surface of glass or visible through a window or door on a permanent basis. It shall not exceed 15% of the glass area. It is allowed in combination with a projecting sign, and vinyl is not to be used. Paint, that's not in this particular section. I think that's up in the general section. Let me go there so we can talk about vinyl. But paint has always been the preferred method.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3.7. All surface must be painted. No vinyl lettering is permitted. So
Okay. So
that would be all
in my
pertinent
opinion,
guidelines.
I see this as two signs. It's the same thing twice. So I think we're looking at, per the guidelines, we could reduce this down to one door and be in compliance. I think the white is, again, not complementary to the architecture of the building. It would need to be hand painted rather than a vinyl applied sticker. And I'll withhold my personal opinion.
Okay. That's Ben. We'll go Paul.
I agree with Ben. I don't know why they need two signs here. I saw it immediately as two signs. So one sign on one door would be ample, and the coloring I would agree on.
Mark?
Yeah, I agree with what's been said.
Okay. Kevin?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Would we like to make a motion?
Make a motion to hold for revisions.
Second.
Okay, and to give some guidelines on the revisions, it would be, it sounds like one sign instead of two, and color scheme to be complementary. Okay.
And hand painted.
I think you got
And not vinyl.
Okay.
Okay, that's been seconded. Mark, are you in favor?
Aye. Second.
Paul?
Aye.
And Kevin?
Aye.
And Ben?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's move to, are you here for another application as well?
Yeah, I've got several.
Okay, 76 Main Street. Let's move to that one.
All right. So, you might recall in the beginning of last year, they applied for a different sign in this location, so they're looking to change it again. It's in the same spot as the last sign was approved in. The main difference really is just the color scheme here. So this is the existing sign before our last, this is like the original sign. This doesn't reflect the most recent application. And this is 22 by 16. It's on a freestanding post. Last season, we applied for a gold and green sign, which was approved at the same location. And so now we're going to be changing it again. We're changing the color scheme. It's going to be white and black, and it's 26 by 19 double-sided projecting sign. And yeah, same location. And the light bulbs are removed. I think that was the comment from the last application that was approved because there was an issue with the lighting. So the light bulbs are removed there.
Okay, thanks. And just to be clear, if we could scroll up and look at the building, I know it's located a couple, yeah, so building color scheme is white and black. Okay, let's go around the horn. Paul, Ben, Kevin, Mark.
I have no problems with it.
Ben?
Yeah, I appreciate the black and white. I think it's gonna work better with the house in that blue, but it's really hard to even read what's on the sign in that blue. My only concern is the font for the 76. It just seems like we're looking at 3 different fonts here. And I'm not so sure that numerical font is in relationship with the other two. So that's really my only holdup on this one.
All right. I'm sorry, did I say Mark and then Kevin, or Kevin and then Mark?
Good. Kevin and Mark.
Kevin, thank you.
I just want to take us back a little bit over time because I've lived on this street for quite a while. Way back, the sign that was there was black with gold lettering, which has been something we've been trying to do along Main Street, you know, particularly compared to the other side streets. We then went to the darker blue and had the same conversation, but the darker blue went because it was more subdued in the background. And then we had the green and the gold, which was also darker and kind of played itself down a little bit. My concern with this is I would like to see it go back to, you know, black and gold and be a little more, you know, stately and respective of the neighborhood. Absent that, I would rather see it reversed with white on black. I think this white blade sticking out on the only sign on that entire stretch of Main Street from the bank down to the monument, I think it's unnecessary. All it's really doing, yes, it's the name of the business, but it's also the address. So I don't think it's going to be hard to find, and I don't think it needs to be this large white sign. And I also have noticed that it's pretty easy to screw the light bulbs back in, and that's been shown up occasionally. So I would rather see this be gold on black and get back more to the historic character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, Mark?
No concerns.
Okay. Kevin, I can appreciate what you're saying. I think it would look nicer that way. However, I also feel like I don't think we can have it always if it's complementary with the building. And we're asking other applicants to be complementary with their buildings. I just want to make sure we're sort of playing. Personally, I just want to make sure that we're always playing by the same set of recommendations and rules, so to speak. So I'm okay actually with this, although I think it would look better as black. Is there well, having said that, is there any interest by the applicant to consider the color scheme, or do you want us to, or do you have any comments based on what we've said before a motion's made?
I don't have any comments, just to address the font issue. It's 76 and Main are in the same font.
Do we have a motion from the board?
I make a motion to approve as applied.
Second.
Okay, do it. Thank you, Paul. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Kevin?
No.
And Mark?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
And I am as well. Okay. Let's move to 19 Broad Street.
Okay. So 19 Broad Street is pretty straightforward here. Basically what's happening is they're replicating the exact signage from 21 Broad Street, the same design, the same layout, everything for 19 Broad Street. So that's a picture of 21 Broad Street right there. That's the existing sign that's there. So 19 Broad Street will look the same as that, same color, same style. And it's sized at a 34 by 14. It's a double-sided projecting sign.
Okay, and where is it being
And in terms of, yep,
oh, thank you.
It's going to go right there, and the bracket is going to be the same bracket as the 21 Broad that kind of wraps around the pole.
Okay, and I recall at 21 Broad Street, there was a need to direct people down the alley or down the driveway. That's not the case here, is that right? The front door is the entrance right by those steps?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's do Mark, Kevin, Ben, Paul.
Sorry, I had to chuckle when you said this straightforward. Nothing's ever straightforward with these applications. Yeah, so we have a sign which has been approved at one property now being proposed for the adjacent property. I think my struggle with this a little bit is that even though both structures are Victorian style, I struggle a little bit that they're stamping out the very same sign for the adjacent property. And I understand there's some branding that's going on here so that individuals recognize that it's the same ownership, which I can appreciate. And I'm trying to go through sort of my Rolodex in my head of precedents with white elephant properties and such where we have done this. You know, maybe the boat basin as an example. I guess I'll be anxious to hear what other commissioners, members say, what their opinion is. I just think that maybe a sign that's a bit more unique to the structure might be encouraged. So it doesn't, there's something I think that the sign should be more designed to this particular building. Maybe there is a way for the designer, the sign designer, to still identify the branding within the signage. I don't know if it's a logo or a small detail or something, so that patrons can recognize that it is all of the same property. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but that's my initial thought. I'd rather see a different sign approach. I don't have a problem with the scale or its location necessarily, as long as it doesn't take away from the architecture per se here. But I think maybe rethinking the design of the sign itself might be encouraged. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin?
I agree with what Mark has just said. I was not in favor of the 21 Broad sign when that went in, and I'm not in favor of this one for the very same reasons, in that I don't think that sign approach is very sympathetic with the building or with the architecture at all. It seems like a, you know, foreign object stuck on the front. So color wise, type wise, the whole thing, it's, you know, we're not reflecting any kind of architectural detail whatsoever. So I would like to see this rethought. Thank you.
All right, Ben?
Unfortunately, I don't agree with the boards. I'm actually fine with this, so I'm an outlier
Okay. Paul?
I really don't have any comments.
Okay. Is that, okay, you don't have to make any comments. Before this discussion started, I was thinking the same thing. I said, oh, it's a shame that you're seeing basically the same sign twice on the street. I know that when Windwalker Real Estate, I think it was Windwalker down on Oak Street, came in, we asked them to make modifications where they had one sign which was real estate and one was investing or something. I don't recall what the two angles were, but they were the same sign in every way, shape, and form, except for the little description underneath. And so there is some precedent for that. On the other hand, if you get technical about it, 19 and 21 are not the exact same. So I would, and these buildings are more iconic than probably any other location. Well, I shouldn't say any other location. I mean, Main Street is important as well, but these are certainly buildings worth paying close attention to. So I would implore the applicant to consider maybe even reversing, you know, the Swain House at 19 Broad, so that the 19 Broad was not the same scale and same font as the 21 Broad. Something along those lines would just help it stay a part of the, but it's not our job to design it for you, but, you know, stay a part of the brand, yet be a distinctly different looking sign.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's a really good suggestion. Probably that's sort of what I was trying to get at. I think if they did celebrate the name of the house and then they want the logo of sorts, 19 Broad, to be more minimal. It's, and I think if we just go up the street, we know that the Jared, and the name is escaping me at the moment, but the building they're actually renovating presently to the right of the Jared is also, you know, not too dissimilar. They're all the same property. But the signage on the second building is unique to that structure. So, I mean, even along the street, just a few doors away, there is precedent for where there's a sort of a break in the signage design. And I think there's a way of still allowing the patron to recognize that this is of the same, hotel management, but that the signage itself could be a bit more unique to this particular, to this building. I think the buildings are so special in there and contributing to the streetscape that the signage should be a little bit more sensitive to the building.
Okay, let's, yeah, would you like to reply to any of the comments?
Yeah, could we just scroll up to the 21 Broad Street building? I just want to take a look at it. Can we just look at the, yeah. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to understand, and so that I can follow the rules correctly here, or guidelines, the 21 Broad Street doesn't look like it really considers the building that much in a sense, and it was approved. So like, I'm just trying to understand how I can make the 19 Broad Street consider the building more. I'm just confused.
If I may, Chris, I
You
feel
go,
like
yeah, Mark.
Yeah.
what keeps coming back to me, I feel like I'm in a mall where all the sign is just kind of like stamped out. And I think it's really unfortunate and not creative. And I can't say I'm a huge fan of the sign that we're seeing on the screen right now, but I know there was quite a bit of discussion and ultimately it was approved. But then I think to just replicate it for the most part, other than changing the number, is sort of doing a disservice to the streetscape and to the building that it's being proposed to be attached to. So I think, I don't know that we're necessarily saying that 21 Broad was a reflection of the Victorian architecture of that particular building, the old Nesbitt. But I do think there's an opportunity to contribute to the overall streetscape and to respect the other building by making that sign a bit more unique and not simply replicate what's at 21, which is essentially what we're seeing before us.
Motion to hold for revisions.
Second.
Ben?
No,
No, okay. Paul?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Okay. I'd also like to see some more thought and discussion on this, so I vote in favor. Let's move on to the next application. Which is 32 Bartlett Road. I believe you're also out here for that.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is a 96 by 18 inch sign. And it's going above the garage doors versus the side facing the street there. So it's going to the right by the lights over the two garage doors. It's going right in the middle there. And it's for the Dobert companies because it's their building. And there is an image of the sign. It's a single-sided wall sign, and it is white and gray with their logo being less than 15% of the sign.
Okay. We'll go Kevin, Ben, Paul, Mark.
If there's no other discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve.
Let's let everybody weigh in before.
Okay.
Okay. Ben?
I have absolutely no problem with putting a sign in this location. I'm just wondering on the font, do we want a little serif on there? I mean, I don't know if that's an approvable font. That's my only question on that.
Technically, yeah, we've asked for serif letters. I think it's clear that is their, looks like their font from their
truck.
Their logo, but
right, which then says that's the logo,
yeah,
is the whole thing, you know.
Right. Let's go through the comments and we'll get back to that. Mark, where were we? Paul?
What color are the garage doors?
They're white.
Okay. I have no problem, except that I don't know they need all that lighting, especially after dark. What's the intention there?
I can't
So-
speak to the lighting. The two
It
are
looks like-
probably motion sensor lights.
Right, yeah, Paul, it does look like lighting for the perimeter, not necessarily the sign there, but is there a sign on this application? Is there lighting considered? Let me just-
It's the
Scroll back.
existing lighting. Yeah, it's the existing lighting that's above there.
Okay.
That was there previous to the sign.
Okay,
And then
so
the
that
two
just
on
has
the
to
side
be,
do not. Yeah, the two on the side don't shine on the sign. Those are more like for vans pulling in, motion sensor.
so we can just put a note, if a motion's being made, we should just make sure that we are clear about the lighting needs to comply with the wattage requirements.
Okay, no.
And that was Paul, then Mark?
Yeah, I think this is a rare case where the building's gonna improve with some signage. But I kind of agree with Ben. I think we gotta be careful. It's like kind of fine, but it probably should be a serifed approach to comply with our guidelines. Usually if we allow a non-serifed, it's in a block letter form where it's all fully capitalized, which is not the case here. So I would encourage, as we have with larger conglomerates and companies, FedEx and US Mail and so on, to serif the letter or the font. Otherwise, I have no concerns.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you look at Parchment, for example, as a case where they had a very similar font, and the serifs can be pretty slight, but I think that it'll still read the same, especially driving down this road. You won't really, it won't shock you that it's a different font from their logo, but adding a slight serif is a pretty easy thing to do. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve with serifed, a serifed font.
Second.
Would you accept a friendly amendment to your motion?
Yeah.
I'd like to remove the signage lighting. I don't think it's necessary for this type of business in this neighborhood.
I would modify my motion to omit any lighting of the sign or signage lighting. I will add a caveat there, though. I think there is signage there that illuminates their parking area, probably by evening. I think those are probably motion sensors that were added over the garage bays, not intended for the signage or not to illuminate the sign. So my comment is not directed at that existing lighting, but there should be no additional lighting that would light up the sign itself.
So we have a motion to make approval with a slightly modified serif font and no lighting specifically for the sign.
Correct.
Second for that motion.
Second.
All right, thank you. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Kevin?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Okay, I am as well. And so that takes us to 5 Old South Road. Excuse me, Old South Wharf, rather.
Yes, Old South Wharf.
Yes.
So we are going to be using an existing bracket for this sign that's going up. And it is right where the tan sign is right there. It's hard to tell what the name of that existing or old place was with the existing bracket, but it's gray and tan. So we're going to be using that same bracket, LE Chi. So for this new sign that's going there. And it's for the company Coup, and it's going to be blue and brown. Double-sided projecting sign carved and painted. And it's sized at 20 inches by 24 inches, and this is an appropriate size for the bracket that's there.
Okay. All right, let's go around we'll do Paul, Mark, Kevin, Ben.
I have no comments or no concerns, rather.
I'm sorry, did you say it's blue and brown?
Yeah, the blue is a very like gray blue color. There's a swatch of it up on the where I have the sign.
So the background is
It's like a gray blue,
okay,
and then the
with
brown.
a brown
yeah.
letter.
Mhm.
And also, did you say that this sign is of the same size as the previous?
I'm not exactly sure of the size of the previous, but there is limitations within the bracket, so I'm assuming it would be a similar size to what we're
Yeah,
what's the word?
it looks similar. Yeah,
Suggesting. Yeah, so we're limited to the bracket, basically.
got it.
Also the height.
And it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I have any concerns.
okay. Kevin.
No comments.
Okay, Ben.
No, I think this is a good example of where the sign really nicely kind of complements the colors of the building. So I think this is a nice approach.
Okay. I agree. I think the signs, it's nice. The blue gray, I'm assuming that the contrast that we see here is what is being represented. The blue gray is sort of just appearing to be more white on our screen than in reality, correct?
Yeah, and this
Yeah.
was printed and scanned, so I
Yeah.
mean, it's not 3,000% accurate, but it's pretty close
But,
representation.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thanks. Kevin, are you in favor?
All right.
And Paul?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
I am as well.
A quick comment,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yes.
They need to be sure that the bottom of this sign is 7.5 feet over the driveway.
Yeah, and
It looks like it's
I
not.
don't think it is. I don't think there's any way. A lot of those wharf signs are just by nature of the fact that those
You're gonna
doors.
have to put a plant or something on
Yeah.
so people don't walk underneath it.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a good point. Along this wharf, the signs are all lower just by nature of the fact that the buildings are such, shanty sized. Whereas I don't think
Yeah,
that Eve is.
Chris, you and I would probably have trouble entering that door without smacking our heads on the top of it.
No doubt. And that's the way it is with most of the businesses. Not that I've smacked my head, but being down that wharf, I noticed that. I mean, the eave can't be 7 feet off the ground for a lot of these. I've ducked to enter some of these shanties. So, planter, something to the effect that will prevent people from walking straight into it. It's a good idea. Let's move to 1 Cambridge Street. Is anybody on the call for that?
Yep, I am. How's it going? How are you?
Good. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so I'm Hayden Arnott. I have a potato chip company called Nantucket Crisps, and we're opening up a Nantucket Crisp store for the summer at 1 Cambridge Street.
Okay. And let's get to now this is the Sweet Inspirations.
Exactly.
Among other businesses there. Okay. Go ahead and tell us where you're putting the sign. And
yeah, I mean, so essentially we're kind of just doing exactly what Sweet Inspirations did, same location. We're taking our sign, putting it right there. We're not doing too much that's quite different. That's what it'll look like, although the sign color actually be the red and white that we just saw earlier. So pretty cookie cutter.
Okay, is there any other signage that you're going to be proposing as far as border board over the door at the moment, for example?
Not as of now, but I mean, I would love to know if that is possible. I'm not sure what the status is of that border board. It says 0 India. So I'm just not entirely sure.
Got it. The guidelines would say you're allowed 2 signs, various combinations of those. So you can kind of read into those and figure out what you want to do. But just for the moment, we're just having this. No freestanding sandwich boards, etc., would be allowed out on the sidewalk.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go through the board. We'll do Ben, Paul, Mark, Kevin.
I don't think I have a problem with this. The red is kind of weird, but I think it goes with the brick. So I'm okay with it.
All right, Paul.
I don't have any problem with it either, although a word of caution, the prior tenant in that building had lots of signs in the windows, which were never applied for, so therefore not approved. So.
Okay.
So.
Thanks.
Mark?
Yeah, I don't think I have any concerns, though. I think we have asked applicants to remove the copyright logo or symbol.
Okay.
Their signage.
All right. Yeah, we could do that.
Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, that's good catch. Kevin?
I agree with what's been said. However, when I look at this, I just wanted to add that I think typographically it's really kind of confusing. I would either reduce the size of the store or maybe change the store to, to black or something. It almost looks to me like there's 2 businesses there and the hierarchy isn't quite very well balanced, but it does meet the guidelines. So.
Okay.
Okay. I agree. I actually don't have a problem with this. It's a good point, Kevin, but I think it'll read all right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
And make a motion to approve.
Second.
With the removal of the copyright logo.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am as well. Okay, so that'll be recommended for approval at the meeting tonight.
Thank you.
And we have 32 Washington Street, Mariah Mitchell.
I have to recuse from this one.
Okay. Is there anybody on the call to represent this one?
Yes, I am Jason Finger, Mariah Mitchell Association. It says Eric, but that's my husband.
Okay, yeah. Let's see, if I'm actually on the board of the English Club, which is the sort of the owner of the building who's subleasing to. So I think I should recuse myself as well. It's only going to leave us with 3 people on the board, which is still enough. So Kevin, let me hand this over to you.
Okay. As I understand this is we're trying to relocate a freestanding sign, basically.
Yes, so as you know, our aquarium building is now owned by the land bank, and we're moving down the street 2 doors to what was Brant Point Marine and Tidal Creeks. And we'd just like to take the sign that we had as a freestanding sign, and we would like to attach it to that small kind of access door above the bay doors because our aquarium will be in that bay. And in fact, one of those bay doors will be open to allow people to go in and out of the aquarium.
So that would be parallel to the facade, not projecting.
It's not projecting, no, it would be attached to the building right there.
Like where
I
that
gave
white
you
shape is.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, where the white square is. I gave you a second place for it, but I thought that it, like right there, where the car is, but I
Okay.
think it would look better and be less confusing if it was just over the bay.
And this is sort of temporary, correct?
Yeah, it's only, will only be there for about 4 seasons.
Okay. All right. Comments from the board, Paul?
I have no comment, but I do have a question. If you could go back one screen. Is that going to overlap the, is it
No,
bigger than the door?
no, I'm sorry. It's called, I'm not very good at Photoshop. I apologize.
So it's going to be applied to the door and the door can be opened.
Yes.
Okay, I have no questions. No problem with it.
Ben? You there, Ben?
Ben's recused.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I do have a problem with it on the door. I think that hard to tell in this photo, but I think there's a herringbone pattern or something on the door with the decorative hinges. Seems like a really odd place to plaque a sign onto it. It doesn't feel very sensitive to the architecture. And I think we should reconsider other options. Do we have a better shot that shows the whole building? I'm hard pressed to make a recommendation without, I can't, because we don't really have a shot of the whole facade, and whether there's a better opportunity to place it. There we go. And it's dark, unfortunately, but I mean, can it go left of the door or the porch entry, or could it be mounted on a bracket off a porch post? That feels a little bit more in keeping with the guidelines. And I understand they're trying to recycle their sign, but I don't think that putting it on the loft door like that over the garage bay is really the appropriate place.
I tend to agree with Mark on this, that as I recall, the previous businesses just had a projecting sign near the entrance. And I think that would be worthy to consider that again in this case. So, pleasure of the board.
Yeah, I mean, I would make a recommendation that the sign be relocated to the porch post, and then attached as a blade sign, versus as applied for. That'd be my recommendation. I think it's more successful there than the second option, being tacked over presumably over the lattice like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, my motion would be to have the applicant reconsider the location to a projecting sign attached to the porch post.
I'll second that.
Let me just clarify, would it make it easier to hold for revisions? I don't think we know the scale of that sign to know how far out it's going to project. And
we can, yep. I mean, it built the reason I don't have too many concerns with that, because it looks like that first floor sits up fairly high. And so I guess I'm making an assumption that they would mount the bracket traditionally to the upper part of the post itself. So it would sit up from grade, and I think look appropriate to the building. But if the board would prefer to see this come back to see what that would look like, assuming the applicant is amenable to that recommendation, I'm fine with that too.
yeah, my question would be just is the size of it still appropriate to be used that way? I agree with your notion for placement, but I just don't know more. It's more width than it is height.
Yeah, I guess I only felt okay with that, given it's sort of the way it's being used today in its freestanding armature.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, then I got you. So the motion is, wait, why don't you repeat your motion again, Mark? Sorry.
Sure. My motion is to mount the sign to a bracket attached to the porch post.
As a projecting sign.
As a projecting sign, exactly.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Paul, all those in favor, Paul,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and I'm in favor as well. Thank you.
May I ask one question for clarification?
Sure.
Do you want to see this back then, or am I allowed to just go and put it on a bracket?
You are allowed to put it on the bracket.
Okay. Thank you very much.
One
Assuming it's approved.
subject
Yes,
to
yes, subject to today.
well, subject to you. I would also, for staff purposes, for the file purposes, I would like we need to adjust your application to reflect that it's a
Okay.
projecting sign. So we will need feel free to email me, Jason, after the meeting, but I'll need to get just something to put in the file that verifies the placement of the projecting sign off of the porch.
Do you want a whole new application?
No. A picture to
Okay.
a picture that will stamp with the approval should the HDC
Okay.
approve the application.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. And incidentally, it's 3.9 square feet, which is under the projecting sign size requirement, so it complies. Just to
Thank you.
let you know. All right. We would have the last application for Bayberry Court. Is anybody on the line for that?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kira McCauley.
Chris, excuse me. I need
Yes.
to abstain from this.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Kira, go ahead and introduce us to your application.
So we are looking to replace an existing sign from our appliance showroom to now be the window and door gallery sign.
Okay, and is it in the same size, font, layout, etc., as the previous sign, just different wording?
The other sign was a green background with gold letters. I have a picture here of it if you would like me to share my screen so you could see it.
Could you, just for reference?
Yeah, let me just share my screen really quick. Oh, I have to allow it, sorry. Can you see my screen? No.
I don't know, we see you. But it's not the end of the world if it's a difficult, we're running into technical difficulties. We can review this on its own merits.
Okay. Yeah, it's asking
It's okay.
me to leave the meeting.
Don't worry about it. We can review this on its own. Oh, now we can see your screen.
Okay. Sorry,
Okay,
I don't know what happened. That's the old sign.
Okay.
This picture was taken in October, I believe.
Got it. But there was a rebranding of all the signage, I recall, a few years ago, where everything was heading in the direction of what you're applying for now, correct? Everything else, I guess, other.
As far as I've been here, we've only redone one sign, which was the appliance service sign. I don't know if off the top of my head if everything's going to be redone, but slowly this is the second sign since I've been here that we've done.
Chris,
so
you're
sadly can't
correct.
answer.
Because the freestanding sign out front was redone too. Or they've redone everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And also just to know, where which building is this? Is this the one where the appliance center was right across the street from the main? Like
Correct.
Paul?
This was once the appliance showroom.
Okay, got it. Okay, so let's Paul, why don't we do Ben, Kevin, Mark for discussion?
Yeah, so, you know, clearly this sign wants to be centered over the door, and this image isn't showing that, so that hits me right off the bat. Second, I recall when we did the Marine Home Center building sign approvals way back when, we did not go with this kind of logo to anchor on the side format, but it was to reflect the existing signage that was previously there, which looked a lot like the sign that was quickly shown to us with the scalloped edge and the, you know, green background and white lettering. So I'm worried that this corner board sign doesn't match the rest of the campus. So I would want to see examples of what's existing and that we would match those. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Well, I don't disagree with what Ben just said. I thought these did match, and maybe I'm just used to seeing these graphics through other materials produced by Marine Home, but can the applicant speak if indeed the sign matches other signage that's been applied to some of their other buildings?
Yeah, I think actually it sounds like, Kara, if I could make an assumption here, you weren't here when the campus sign application went through, correct? That was a few years ago.
Yeah, are we talking about the main big freestanding sign outside of Housewares?
All of them, I think, were updated.
There's a whole discussion about all of the signs, and I believe there's a master sign plan or a campus plan that was approved, and that, or at least discussed. We should have that be a part of this discussion. I don't want to throw out all of the resolutions made then and start going sign by sign and contradicting anything that was approved during that review process.
Yeah, we just did the appliance service sign that has the full logo, just because it is it's 5 Bayberry, which is, you know, farther in the parking lot. So we have the full logo. This, since it's closer to our main campus, we just did the anchor. So if open to matching those sign we just did, I could just do the Marine Home Center logo.
Okay. If we have time, and I'm assuming that this isn't going to prevent you from operating the business, I'd like to recommend that we hold this. Kevin, I'm speaking before you've had a chance to speak, but I'd like to see the campus review application as something that we can all review before moving on this, just so that we're not contradicting something that we've already approved and creating an issue there. That's me personally. So but let me have Kevin weigh in here as well.
Yeah, I would agree that we need to look at this in the full scope of the master sign plan. I would like to add, just for the conversation, that I think that, you know, this thing with the anchor, I think it's inappropriate on the sign itself. That could be put down onto the door or handled in another way with an and I think the window and door gallery is very, very crammed in that space. It's practically bleeding off into the edge. I think it's poorly sent. I think it's poorly worked, you know, typography wise. I much prefer, you know, the existing sign with the scalloped edge. That's more in keeping with the larger signs from the, you know, from on the main building that we work quite hard to keep that kind of scalloped edge routine going on those. So I would make a motion to hold for revisions. And to include the master sign plan and previous approvals.
Great. So that would, I think that would just be a request that the view pack for another meeting include that campus master sign plan. Okay, so everybody's had a chance to speak. We have a motion to hold for revisions.
I'll second that.
And let me just be clear, we're not revisions. It's more like we want to hold for more discussion, right? We're not requesting specific redesign.
I specifically would like to see, I would like to hold for more information, but I would also like to see revisions to this.
Being, okay. And to give clear direction, being that you don't think the logo and the white, the scale of the font are appropriate.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion to hold for revisions and request more documentation at the next review. That was made by Kevin, seconded by somebody. Ben, thanks. Mark, are you in favor of that?
No, I'm in favor of holding this for revisions. Well, sorry, I'm in favor of actually requesting additional information. And if we had images or photos of the existing signage on the campus to compare against this particular one, that I think that would be very helpful. I don't know that I'm in a position to be requesting a revisions until I get to review that other material first. So,
okay, so no.
No, I guess that's a long answer to a no. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I was only raising my concerns revision wise to make the process a little shorter for
yeah, I recognize that, Kevin. I just I don't know that I'm quite there yet until I see the other materials. I might be, and it may cost them another round, but or it may not, unless we get more comfortable with when we see the other materials. I'm not sure. Or at least
yeah, I think Mark, your point is if in the campus review plan we approved this design style for all of the auxiliary buildings, then it's hard to go back and contradict ourselves with a redesign request.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
however, small point, but however, I think we would all agree that we would prefer to see this centered over the doorway. So that would be a revision.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And the scale.
Yeah, I tried to cover what was there, so that's why it's kind of off-centered. Of course, it will be centered. I think it was the angle at which I took the picture as well. So I apologize. It will be centered.
Okay. Great. So Carrie, I think what we're saying is we're asking for revisions, but we want to really dive into the previously approved master sign plan. And then we can give a lot more educated advice here. So we've got a vote for Mark is a no. Kevin was a yes.
Yes.
And Ben, you are a yes.
Yep.
And I'm a yes. So we are holding for revisions and more documentation to review.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so would you like me to take pictures of all the other signs that we have, and then just so we can compare them, so possibly in the future they could all look like this or stay to how they are? Is that what?
Well, there was a master sign plan that went through a review process. What we're saying is we want to look at, we all can't remember exactly what that was. This should comply with that unless we're looking to reopen that discussion. So, yeah, if you want to bring signs, that would be great. You want to bring photographs of existing signage, but from our point of view, we just want to be able to look back at that approved campus plan so that we can review this application in that context.
Okay, thank you.
You'll be able to access all those files at the Plus department too. So just bring the address and map and parcel.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. And Billy, is it okay to ask if that is a file that can be put in the view pack next time? Is that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think, you know, we can include a copy of that.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Kira. Thanks everybody for making it through our marathon. This is the longest meeting we've had in a while. That is all of the items on new business. Before we adjourn, one of the things that had previously been on every agenda, Billy and Nikki, was enforcement, and that was simply so that we could have the discussion. It was removed, and in my conversation with Leslie, the question was, why was it removed? And she didn't have any idea why. She didn't agree with the email that I was sent by a staff member telling me that it wasn't in our purview to discuss enforcement issues. She thinks that, I don't want to put words in Leslie's mouth, but I believe that she agreed that we should be able to discuss it and assist the Plus staff in that process. So if we could have that put onto our agenda from here moving forward, that would be great.
Yes,
if there's
yes.
any reason
And you will have, not to put Nikisha on the spot, but you will have the enforcement officer present at these meetings, so.
Thank you.
Awesome, that's good progress.
So why don't we say that for the moment, we won't discuss enforcement. It's not on our agenda, but we have said that if anybody wants to start sending in concerns to, so we'll have something to discuss at the next meeting. That would be great. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
No, motion to adjourn.
Second.
You guys can adjourn. I just wanted to make sure, Ben, you'll be at the meeting tonight.
Yeah, 4
I
o'clock.
imagine
I'll probably be on Zoom. I'll be on Zoom.
I'll be on Zoom as well, but it's beneficial to have a member there because I say my thing, and it's good to have one of you guys there to back up what's spoken about at the meeting.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for bearing through this process. So we had a second by Ben, I think. Kevin, Mark, you're in favor?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Me too. Farewell.
All right.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one.